How's it going, everyone? I am Jinsula, and welcome to another Pokémon Go deep dive video. Alright, today we need to take a look at what is probably the most useless legendary Pokemon currently in the game, and I'm of course talking about Regice. Everything about this Pokemon is just not good, and it is definitely not worth maxing out. I'm going to be explaining why in this video, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. Okay, so there are very few instances where a legendary Pokemon is overall useless. You would think that, no matter what, a Pokemon with the label legendary would be more powerful in some way compared to your average everyday Pokemon. Well, this is unfortunately not the case for our boy Regice. It is quite the stretch making a case for this Pokemon to be relevant in some way. A few players might make the argument that Regice is a decent Ice-type Pokemon that you can use before getting some of the top-tier Ice types. Sure, that could be true, but considering how easily and readily available some of those better Ice types are, this argument kind of falls flat on its head. Notably, you could go hunting Team Go Rocket battles right now and pick up a Shadow Swinub from a Grunt, evolve it to Shadow Mamoswine regardless of IVs, unlock the second charge attack for Avalanche, and boom, you got yourself a top Ice-type attacker. So yeah, it's really difficult to make the argument for Regice, but I'll do the best I can to find some way for this Pokemon to be useful. In order to get there, let's first go over Regice's details. Regice is a pure Ice type, meaning it is going to be weak against fighting, fire, rock, and steel. It has only one resistance, which is going to be Ice. This is already some bad news for Regice. Since it doesn't have another type to help it out, its weaknesses are pretty straightforward. At least for Pokemon like Walrein, the dual typing will neutralize some of its weaknesses that are inherent with its Ice typing. Regice doesn't have that benefit. Now if we look at Regice's base stats, things start to get a bit interesting. It has a base attack stat of 179, a base defense stat of a whopping 309, and a base stamina stat of 190. Obviously, the major highlight is going to be that defense stat. Regice has insanely high damage reduction from its stats, but it unfortunately lacks any good attack or stamina to complement it. This means this Pokemon will be less than ideal for raids. Take for example Mamoswine, which is currently the top Ice-type attacker. You can see that the base attack stat is significantly higher, at 247. It does have half the defense, but it also has a sizable increase in stamina compared to Regice. These sort of stats are way more ideal for raids. A higher defense stat does very little compared to a higher stamina stat, and you will always want as high of an attack stat as possible. This leads me to think one thing with Regice. Could it be viable for the Go Battle League? Is it any good in either the Great League, Ultra League, or Master League? Well, let's explore how it does there. If we go to pvpoke.com, you will find that Regice is ranked all the way down in 94th in the Great League. This makes total sense, as the stats produced by this Pokemon are going to pale in comparison to its Steel counterpart. It also doesn't hard counter a lot of the Pokemon in the meta, and there are plenty of Pokemon that will counter it. Now, if we were to move on to the Ultra League, things seem to look better. Regice has a lot more favorable matchups in that league, with very few downsides. It is currently ranked 25th overall, with key wins against Nidoqueen, Walrein, Trevenant, Alolan Muck, and Giratina Altered Form. Every single one of these Pokemon are very common in the Open Ultra League, so Regice may actually be useful there. Finally, let's take a look at the Master League. Much like the Great League, there aren't too many upsides here. It looks like Regice just doesn't have a leg up against most of the top meta Pokemon. Thus, this is not the league where Regice will work. So yeah, in terms of PvP, it looks like the Ultra League is the only spot where Regice could see some decent play. To be honest with you though, I have yet to see this Pokemon during my Ultra League battles at the higher ranks. This leads me to believe that other Pokemon are being preferred over Regice among the top players. I think it would be wise to follow suit, as there are certainly much better options you can go with. Overall, there just isn't a good place for Regice to shine. You could make the argument for PvP, but I would much rather go with a Pokemon like Walrein, Registeel, or even Articuno. These Pokemon will do what Regice does, but a lot better. The other issue with using Regice in PvP is just how difficult it is to get IVs that are close to the ideal for the Go Battle League. You would have to do special trades with new friends and hope that you will roll one with 0 attack and nearly maxed out defense and health. That is a tall order, and one you should reserve for a Pokemon that is more deserving like Registeel. Yeah, PvP is out of the question for Regice. Likewise, this Pokemon will have absolutely no place in raid battles. Shadow Mamoswine is highly accessible, and the cost to power it up is going to require significantly less effort compared to Regice. Another issue with Regice is of course its lack of a good move pool. While it does come with Lock-On and Blizzard, which has a lot of potential in the Go Battle League, it is nowhere near the level of power that Powder Snow and Avalanche have in both PvP and PvE. Regice definitely struggles quite a bit with these clunky charge attacks. It's just a real shame because there was a lot of potential there. I think the best way Niantic could fix this particular issue would be to give Regice a decent rock type attack. Imagine if Regice had Meteor Beam or Rock Slide. These moves would add a ton of type coverage. Unfortunately, Thunder is the best we got in terms of an exclusive legacy move. I don't think Niantic would add anything substantial to Regice's kit anytime soon. Honestly, there is no good reason to ever go for this Pokemon in raids. At the time that I'm recording this video, we are on the verge of Regice returning to 5-star raids. I think the only reason why you should bother raiding this Pokemon is for its shiny form if you don't have one already. Other than that, there really is no reason you should spend any premium raid passes or remote raid passes on this Pokemon. You should save those up, because next month is going to feature Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon. Those are definitely going to be more worthy of your raid passes. Of course, none of this is really Niantic's fault. Remember that they are inheriting this Pokemon stats and moves from the mainstream games. Since Regice doesn't get a lot of play there, it would naturally be useless here in Pokémon Go. It's a real shame, however, because Regice does have a unique flavor to it, especially its shiny form. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Leave your thoughts down below what you think about this Pokemon. Do you think there is a place for Regice to shine? Am I being completely off base by saying it is a useless legendary? Let me know in the comments and let's have a great discussion. And if you ended up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then be sure to check out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way, like with remote raids, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. But yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.